All right, picking up where we left off. We had just finished "The World Is Too Much with Us" and talking about the nature imagery in that. We're going to move to a poem now that really doesn't have much in the way of nature imagery. This is a poem, though, that really details a lot about how much Wordsworth was fed up with society at his time. Okay, the poem that's in this section of this book that I did not teach is one that actually was kind of like this poem, but in a lot more detail, where Wordsworth is complaining about, how much he thought the French Revolution was going to change things and make the world a better place, and how disappointed he was when he found out it ushered in a new type of tyranny. So London 1802 is going to be later on, and he's going to be writing about that, and has some pretty interesting statements in here. Now he's going to reference a character right away. It's an allusion with an A, so it's referencing something that you should know from other works. And we studied this guy back in, it was either the end of second quarter or like the beginning of third. We studied John Milton. We talked about Paradise Lost. So this poem is addressed to Milton, all right? And Wordsworth is longing for Milton and that type of person, not just Milton himself, but that brand of man to return because, in his opinion, London is, let's see what he says about it here at the beginning. We've got another 14-liner here, so I'm going to say again, sonnet. Really, the keys with sonnets are, does it have that box shape? Does it have 14 lines? You can pretty much assume in that case it is. Now, once again, I don't want you to make an assumption and not think for yourself, all right? But when we look at rhyme scheme, the meter, everything seems to lend itself towards a sonnet. All right, it says, Milton, thou shouldst be living at this hour. England hath need of thee. She is a fen of stagnant waters, altar, sword, and pen. Fireside, the heroic wealth of hall and bower, have forfeited their ancient English dower of inward happiness. We are selfish men. Oh, raise us up, return to us again, and give us manners, virtue, freedom, power. Thy soul was like a star and dwelt apart. Thou hadst a voice whose sound was like the sea, pure as the naked heavens, majestic, free. So didst thou travel on life's common way in cheerful godliness, and yet thy heart the lowliest duties on herself did lay. Okay, so to be honest with you, I love The World Is Too Much with Us, and I love the concept in it. I love the poetry of London 1802. The rhyme scheme, the way it sets up is just so much, it rolls off the tongue so much more than The World Is Too Much with Us. So let's look at what William Wordsworth is doing in this poem. So right away I told you, he addresses how he feels about London. He calls it a fen. A fen is a swamp. So a swamp of stagnant waters. So not a great description of the way he feels about that area. He talks about their writing is just, it's terrible. He says altar, sword, and pen. So you've got the church, the sword would be your military, that's your political arm, and then the pen, the writers. He's saying, none of it's worth anything at this point. Very judgmental guy, had some really good points though, okay? He says that basically they at that time period had forgotten what it meant to be a true Englishman and had given up. He says they're selfish now, which again, if he fast forwards to 2020 today and went to one of our grocery stores and watched someone load up, a literal ton of paper towels, he would understand the concept of selfishness. All right. See people fighting over a pork chop. Again, he understands, he would see that we have not learned about not being selfish anymore. He wants Milton to return. Now, this doesn't mean literally. He's talking more about a metaphorical. He wants this, what's the word? It's a type of a rebirth. I'm going blank. But anyway, it's like when you're revival. That was the word. He wants a revival of this old type of thinking. He says, give us manners, virtue, freedom, and power. So you can assume he thinks that their country has none of that right now. So he wants to return those things and to make people, people of nobility, and not nobility as in, I'm upper class, but nobility as in the way you behave. All right. He says Milton was a guy who had all those qualities. And then the thing in the end, remember, sonnets, you really look towards the end to see what happens. And again, around line 9 or 10, we start to see that change. What you have is, this one doesn't really have as strong as a volta, although I would point to the end of line 9 where we have the colon kind of indicating, okay, we're wrapping up. Here's the part you need to look at. And he points out that Milton was the kind of guy, and let's look at the scene. He was pure as the naked heavens, majestic, free, and so didst thou travel on life's common ways. And so you had all these qualities, yet you still were a common man. You didn't treat yourself like you were better. It says, in cheerful godliness, and yet thy heart the lowliest duties on herself did lay. So Milton didn't think he was too good for anything. And he's like, today that's changed. People have decided that they are too good for the things that Milton felt like, hey, I'm a great writer and I was, the voice of my country at the time. But now, he didn't forget where he came from. So you look again at today and can see how that's definitely not the case for most of us. Most of us may start with humble beginnings, but as we get farther and farther along, we forget those things and we begin to think we're too good for stuff. I'm a teacher, not the upper echelon of professions in the eyes of, the bank anyway. But let me tell you, there's so many teachers that it embarrasses me that will not do things like dust their shelves or won't take out the trash because that's below them. Now, granted, my shelves are quite dusty. That's not because I'm too good to do it. It's because I just don't, because I'm lazy and I forget about it. And, I'm short, so I can reach about the first half of the shelves and that's it. So, but the thing is that, I watch people say this, like, I'm not taking out the trash. That's not for me. That's for the janitor to do. Like, we're too good for those things. And that's disturbing. I see that a lot in my profession. I'm sure your parents can tell you of examples of how they've seen it in theirs. So as we move into the questions for this section, we're going to look at qualities from the past that, we seem to not really emblematize today. We're going to think about, a person maybe who represents those things. And we're not going to write a poem, don't worry, but we're going to think about what person would we like to bring back today that could teach us a lot about the things we're missing. By the way, we're not going to let you use Jesus, okay? I don't want you to have an easy answer. You're going to have to think a little harder than that. So start thinking now about people of the past who deserve our respect and represent things that we need today, okay? All right, we're going to get those questions down at the bottom, and I hope you guys are enjoying your, I don't want to call it a vacation, because we know this is a serious matter, but I hope you are enjoying your time at home. I hope you're bonding with your families and friends, and I hope you remember how valuable this time really is. All right? Thank you guys for watching this.